Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley if you are new here, and in this video we are going to be discussing some really big things that I realized just this past week. It's kind of like a January update. Up until this point in the month, I felt like everything was going very smoothly, that I wasn't gonna have like almost anything to update you guys on. Like I almost didn't make this video. And then everything kind of changed this past week. And I have been doing a ton of research and I want to talk to you guys about it, see if you guys have noticed any of this, if you are using The Good and the Beautiful, and also share a big update for my 3-year-old as well. So if you are new here, I have a kindergartner and a 3-year-old who up until this point we really have been doing just school like maybe once a week, just doing very just like learning friendly activities versus like an actual curriculum. I guess I'll start with him real quick because his should be a pretty quick update, but it is a really exciting update for us. So if you've been following me for a little while, last year I did Gather Round Preschool with my kindergartner, and then I thought that I needed to kind of supplement it. I felt like it wasn't teaching the letter sounds as well as I was hoping it was. And so I bought The Good and the Beautiful Preschool, and I was going to do that with him as a supplement, but it ended up being like way too much, and so I just put it on the shelf. I haven't used it, and I don't really remember what exactly like clicked for me, but I just decided this past week, I think Riley is getting to the point where he could like sit down and do a bit more than he is right now, because it's really fun for me to sit down with each kid individually, to just like ensure that they're getting like quality time with me, and they really seem to enjoy it, and it's like a really fun way to just like pour into them individually. And so I decided to start The Good and the Beautiful Preschool with Riley. So he is 3.5 now, and he's definitely not at the point where he's ready to like learn letter sounds necessarily. He is still even struggling to remember like the differences between the letters, but it's more so just like a gentle introduction to doing something consistently. So the other things that we had, I just wasn't doing it consistently, and there aren't curriculums. There was like workbooks, and then there was a preschool kit that he really likes that I will continue using with him. But I don't know, I had the Good and the Beautiful Preschool, and like I said, I feel like it would hold me accountable to like sit down with him regularly, and I think he would really enjoy it, which he has. We've only done, I think, 2 or 3 days so far, but he really enjoys it. He doesn't want me to stop. He's asking me to do it, and so we'll just keep going through with it. I think it could, like I said, be a little gentle introduction, and then next year I do intend to do the Gather Round preschool program, letters and numbers, with him like I did with Shane. And then I figured he'll have just like had a little bit of an introduction to the letter sounds and the different letters, and so hopefully that will just help. It can't hurt, right? So that's what we're doing with Riley, and it's very exciting for us. He, like I said, is enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. So that's our big update on our 3-year-old. So I don't even know where to begin on this, honestly. Again, if you've been following me, I have really enjoyed The Good and the Beautiful. I feel like my son has been enjoying it. He's definitely been learning. It's been doing its job for sure, but I am considering switching him or supplementing his program with All About Reading. So I think I'll just start off with explaining what even made me start to consider even switching him or like supplementing him, or just kind of a little something that made me feel like maybe The Good and the Beautiful isn't not as good as I thought it was, because I still really like it, and I'm still very much considering sticking with it, because I would be sad to leave it. Like, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but we had gotten to the point in his reading booster cards where he is starting to blend consonants together now. So like, I think he's on like maybe 35, card 35 out of 50. So we're a good ways through it. And up until this point, he's really just been blending like CVC words. And then they started adding in double consonants where it was like double S's at the end of a word, or double F's or double L's, something very simple like that. And he did really well with that. And then they did a couple consonant blends where they introduced 2 at a time, where they did st, st, and sk, sk together. And then I think there were 2 other ones, which I can't remember off the top of my head, which I felt those were a little bit challenging for him, especially having 2 at the same time. But he did fine with it. He practiced for a little while and then he was good. But as it has gone on, it's now just introducing like beginning consonant blends and ending consonant blends, which, as I've been researching other curriculums, this is like a normal way to introduce this concept. But that part has been more challenging for him for sure. And so I just started like seeing other videos as well, where other people have continually been talking about how they feel like The Good and the Beautiful isn't a very, very strong phonics program, which, I mean, again, like, I want to keep saying, like, I really think it is a good program, and it is definitely doing its job. Like, it is teaching him to read, and I could totally keep him on it and he'll learn to read, like, no problem. But as I'm researching other programs, what I'm realizing is that while The Good and the Beautiful has in those booster cards, like, it introduces the concept of, like, ST says st, or it will introduce other concepts such as double E's will say E. But I kind of feel like they don't really, like, they introduce that concept once, and then it's really just kind of about, like, memorizing the words. And so I feel like that's how I learned to read, because I don't remember a lot of these other, like, phonics rules as I've been looking through other curriculums, especially All About Reading, where it's like it's teaching them specifically what the phonics rules are. And I don't know if that's normal, if you just forget those things and you just know how to read afterward, or if I'm making it into like a bigger deal than it needs to be. But I kind of feel like if I go back and start something like All About Reading, that he just would have a stronger foundation in reading, where that he would know why certain letters make certain sounds versus just memorizing. Like, I feel like at a certain point, the memorizing isn't going to, like, hold up, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like he's going to need to know the rules behind it, and I'm not sure that he's really learning those things, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I'm overthinking it. I don't know if, because my son is still learning and he's really not struggling too much with it, if I should just stick it out and continue going. I just don't want to, like, regret that and have to, like, go back once he's further along. The other thing is, like I said, I really like The Good and the Beautiful, and so, like, I wouldn't want to stop doing it. So then it's like I have the matter of, like, do I put them together? Like, do we continue doing this, but instead of doing, like, the booster cards, do I do All About Reading lessons? Because I'm thinking of, if I do switch, or if I get it to supplement, that, like, I would start at All About Reading level 1, because there are certain things in, like, the later lessons of All About Reading that I know that the Good and the Beautiful kindergarten isn't going to introduce them at all until 1st grade. So I feel like I can't just finish this and then pick up on level 2. So yeah, I would love to know your opinion if you are using The Good and the Beautiful, if you have considered this as a problem, or if you think that The Good and the Beautiful teaches the rules enough, or am I just wrong in that, like, once you memorize the rule, if you can read the word, it doesn't really matter if you remember the rule, if that makes sense. I guess there is just something appealing about knowing that you are taking a very, very systematic, broken down approach when it comes to reading, because it's such an important foundation of their learning. So I think I didn't want to use All About Reading when we first started, because I wasn't sure about all the rest of language arts. And that's still where I struggle. Like, even if we switched All About Reading, I think I would just do the rest of the language arts and maybe not, like I said, do the booster cards, maybe skip over some parts of the lessons, but still incorporate the rest of it. But I'm really struggling with this, if you can't tell. And then honestly, if we do end up switching, I was just kind of thinking about, like, switching math as well. If we do, like, I'll keep you guys all updated on all of this, just because something kind of happened this month as well with the math, where he got to the end of the 2nd unit where he had his assessment, and during the first assessment he did everything, like, perfectly. I actually have realized that he really hasn't like learned too much from the curriculum, because when he plays on his tablet, ABC Mouse, he like honestly learns so much from that it's like a lot of it is just review. Like I'm just reviewing things that he's already learned on his own. And so now that we're getting into the final unit, we're actually like picking up things that he like is actually like learning. I'm actually having to teach him. And so he didn't understand place value at the end of the second unit. That was one of the topics that they tested him on, or like quote unquote tested him on. And the curriculum says not to worry if they don't master some of the things. It says that you can pause and wait until they mastered it. And I did go ahead and look at The Good and the Beautiful Math grade 1, and they do a ton of place value right in the first unit. So it's not too concerning, right, that he didn't know what it was. But I've also noticed that they have not really gone over number bonds very thoroughly. Like I don't think he really understands very much that concept. And I don't know, like I've just, again, like I've heard other people talk about how they don't love the like constant spiral of the math, which I'm like on the fence about because I do enjoy it. But again, like I just feel like it could be a problem like down the road. And I'm just kind of anticipating both of these things being a problem as things start picking up. And so I'd prefer to switch now when it's kind of easier to switch, where it doesn't feel like we're kind of like really struggling and having to like then go back kind of. So I've been looking into math with confidence a lot, but like I'm only at the very beginning stages of considering that. So yeah, like I said, it's kind of a really big thing this month. It kind of came out of nowhere too. Like I was not expecting anything like this to happen just because we've been really enjoying it and everything. So I'm not going to ramble on anymore about switching The Good and the Beautiful. Like I said, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of this, and I'm going to move on to the next thing that I wanted to update you guys on. So really it's actually just only a couple small things that I wanted to update you on. We finally have found a schedule that actually works for us, even with the baby. I thought we never would, honestly, and it's been such a struggle because last year I feel like we really hit our stride like more towards the beginning of the year, and maybe not the beginning, but like by this point we had already definitely hit our stride. Like we had a schedule, it was going well, and I felt like we couldn't just like move along. Like we were kind of always just squeezing homeschool in whenever we could, and now I feel like we can really like anticipate when it's going, I can anticipate when we're going to do school. Like I know when I can fit it in nicely. And so I'm not going to get into that in this video because I feel like this video is going to be too long already, but I'm going to do another video on our like schedule and our routine of kind of like maybe the first half of the day. And then something else that I wanted to update you guys on was our science, the little hands and hearts science. I honestly just cannot seem to stick with this curriculum. I think I kind of just like don't really like it that much. Like I mentioned before, it just feels too simple. I don't know. I want to continue on with it because we bought it, and I'm like one of those people who like I don't want to stop, but we'll see. We'll see if we actually ever get around to it. If we do it, I think I might honestly end up putting it kind of like once a day because the lessons are so short, and that I feel like we could do that and they're not like learning an overwhelming amount of information, obviously, right? Because it's like preschool to second grade. So like we'll see if I actually end up doing that. I'm not sure if I have mentioned this, but in a couple years I want to do Sonlight science with my two boys because Riley will be in kindergarten in a couple years, and so I'm kind of just waiting until that point to like kind of feel like we're doing something more, because I don't really think, you know, it's 100% necessary for him to be doing anything like, you know, crazy right now. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see if we actually end up ever finishing the curriculum. And then I have another small update on Sonlight. We have been reading through our books still, like at our own pace, and it still has just been a struggle. Even with the new schedule, it doesn't always fit in, and I have just come to accept that at this age of my daughter, it's just, you know, we'll get to it when we get to it. And then I'm hoping next year she will want to sit for longer periods of time, or I could like set her up with some coloring or something like that. So we're moving right along with that, and I'm happy. I love the stories that we are reading, and they definitely are like really giving my sons food for thought. They will mention it like later on in the day. They'll like talk about the stories, or they'll ask to reread it again because they really do like them. So that's a little update on Sonlight. And then I have one last little thing that I don't think I mentioned in my December update. I'm not sure if I had already even signed up for it at this point, but we did sign up for a zoo class that ran for 6 weeks starting in the beginning of January. So he has one more week left, and he has been absolutely loving this zoo class. It's really fun. It was for 4 to 6-year-olds, so it's not very long or very intensive or anything like that, but we go to the zoo, and then there's a little like classroom, and they just teach them. They've gone through different senses, and then they go through animals that, like, for smelling, like animals that have really good sense of smell and stuff like that. And then we'll walk around the zoo and we'll see 3 different animals that, you know, has to do with that scent. And it has been so much fun. My son really has enjoyed it. I've enjoyed like being in a classroom with him, and seeing him like talking in the classroom and just being excited about what he's learning. And so I will be a little bit sad to see that class go, but it's encouraging me to want to sign up for some other like enrichment type classes in the spring and maybe the summer or the fall, or whenever we can find one. So I think that is it for this video. Please don't forget to leave your comment below if you have anything to add to the conversation. If you are doing the same curriculum, I would love to know how it's going for you guys, and if you're starting to think about next year or not, if you think you'll stick with it, or you're thinking about changing as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.